Greetings. By virtue of your presence watching this video today, I want you to know that we consider you to be an extended member of our family at Unity in Linwood. We believe that you are an individualized expression of that one creative impetus which stands behind all life, and as such we celebrate the uniqueness which you are, and we celebrate our unity with you. We are glad you're with us.
That was fun for me. I got to chat with the Facebook audience while Nina was on the platform. Wow. You have an extended family that is really quite beautiful. Quite beautiful. Terry Kalfas, would you join me up front, please? Terry has agreed to chair our 2017 annual gala auction and benefit. It's upcoming on Saturday, November 4. And Terry, she's doing an awesome job, I can tell you that. And it's themed Roots and Wings. It speaks to our 36th year as a community and the importance of stability in our relationships, stability in our finances, that we might give rise to new possibilities in the lives of our people. Roots and Wings. What do you think?
So, in case you haven't been here and haven't heard, the event is November 4th. It's a Saturday night, almost 2 weeks from yesterday, and we are going to have a great night. It'll be here and in the Friendship Hall, silent auction, live auction, raffles, mystery box. We have some great offerings, like some really, really cool things that I'm sure you would love to participate in. And look at all my props, yay. So, I'll start with this. We're actually selling raffle tickets, so if you, for whatever reason, you can't attend the event, you can actually buy raffle tickets. We have 3 raffle prizes, $100 cash, a $50 gift card to the bookstore, and 2 tickets to Chocolate Cabaret. So if you want to buy a raffle ticket, they're $10 each. We have this great buried treasure box that Matthew created for us. I think we're going to have to get a bigger box, though, from the stuff that we're getting to put in that. This is a community item from Unity in Linwood. Everyone in the community, if you have something to donate, whatever, a $100 bill, or as Michelle says, a box of chiclets, whatever you want to put in there, great.
Car keys.
Car keys, yes. Well, you can just send the car keys my way, and I'll take care of those. Also, if you want to donate a bottle of wine, that's another community auction item. We have a wall of wine. This chocolate shop, the chocolate lover's wine, like how fun is that? Somebody brought that. So those are ways for you to contribute. As far as procurement items, I need everything by today, unless I know it's coming later. I can't keep taking items in because there's a lot of processing and we have to get our catalog built. So if you have something coming that you don't have with you today, please let me know. I have so many details in my brain, I need to write it down so I remember.
And we're in our last 2 weeks for reservations. We cannot sell seats at the door because of liquor law. So $40 at the table this Sunday or next Sunday, or call the office during the week.
Yes. So you can see me in the back for tickets or for raffle tickets, and you can scan your credit card. And I hope as many of you will come, because it's going to be a lot of fun.
It will be a lot of fun. New Jersey, the year was 1876. Now, to place this in some context, the year 1876 was also the year that Mark Twain published The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Perhaps you've heard of it, perhaps not, I don't know. It was the same year that Custer took that famous last stand, that little bighorn, that Colorado was admitted to the Union. Now, as we understand the tale, he worked 12 hours, 14, 16, even 18 hours at a stretch. And yet it's understood that the inventor in question would pause from time to time. He would rally his cerebrally oriented friends with the promise of beer. Some things never change. He would rally his cerebrally oriented friends with the promise of beer and regale whatever gathering he could assemble with tunes on the pipe organ, which stood in the corner amidst the chemicals and the devices and the equipment of his laboratory. Now, at the time, electric lights were too bright to be used indoors, and gas lights were simply too dangerous. So our inventor set out to combine what he knew about electricity with what he knew about gas, and ultimately the pursuit fell upon the inner workings of a device something akin to this. Something akin to this. He set out to discover a filament that would glow when it was heated. In and of itself, really not too much of a problem. Not too much of a problem. But he sought a filament which would withstand that heat. Now that proved to be a bit of a problem. And so it was that his tests for a filament which would withstand the heat progressed from fishing line to coconut fibers to human beard hair to platinum wire to cotton fiber. All in all, his tests progressed through some 6,000 candidates until he stumbled upon a filament of bamboo fiber which produced a glow that lasted for some 1,200 hours. Now, the date of this invention was recorded as October 22nd. Yes, it was on this date in history, 1879, that Thomas Alva Edison advanced the idea of light on the planet. I bet you know where I'm going already, don't you? Now, I tend to be somewhat skeptical of statements made by Abraham Lincoln about the dangers of rock and roll music, Eleanor Roosevelt about the ethics of cloning, and Albert Einstein about the perils of Facebook, all seemingly legitimized by the inclusion of a photograph and a couple quotation marks. And while I'm equally skeptical of Edison's statement about his discovery, I like it so much that I'll offer it anyway. Supposedly, when asked how and why he persisted after 10 or 100, 500, 1,000, some 6,000 failures, can you even imagine? 6,000 failures. I mean, how many times did you try to program that VCR to record Knots Landing before you just gave up? Or Fantasy Island? I mean, any Dynasty fans out there? When asked how and why he persisted after more than 6,000 failures, he replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Now, even though I'm somewhat of a skeptic, I don't think the accuracy of this statement is beyond plausibility. After all, he's also quoted as having said, "Negative results are what I want. They're just as valuable to me as the positive results. I can never find the thing that does the job best until I find the ones that don't." I think I might have enjoyed Mr. Edison. Other quotes attributed to him include, "Many of life's failures are just people who didn't realize how close to success they were when they quit." Or how about this one? "When you have exhausted all possibilities, remember this: you haven't." And then there's this one: "Nonviolence leads to the highest ethics, which is the goal of all evolution. Until we stop harming other living beings, we are still savages." It was about church in specific that he's quoted. What I have denied and what my reason compels me to deny is the existence of an anthropomorphic being throned above us, directing our mundane affairs in detail, punishing us, rewarding us as human gods would do. End quote. I can almost hear the pipe organ singing now. Just me and Thomas chatting about God, throwing back a couple cold ones. He said, I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. It's in the short book of James. And the Apostle Paul identified this James as James, the brother of Jesus. And if this shocks you, like the first time you heard that Jesus didn't write the Bible, if this shocks you, the Bible actually identifies 4 brothers and an unspecified number of sisters, all unnamed. So sorry, women, thank God for progress. All unnamed. It's in this short book of James, a work sometimes compared to Proverbs of Jewish scripture in both content and in spirit, that we find a quote of similar spirit. It reads as follows: "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance." Now, translations being as important as they are, the word for trials in this text could have an inner connotation. It could have an outer connotation. Given the era and the geography in which he was the leader of that church, either would have been possible. For our purpose today, it doesn't matter. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials. It's a pretty counterintuitive idea, don't you think? I think the same theme is echoed by the Apostle Paul in his letter to the Romans. We also rejoice in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. Paul, being a man who did no small amount of writing from prison, you see, he wasn't theorizing from the back seat of his Escalade. And by Peter, in this rejoice, though you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials, these have come that your faith, of greater value than gold, may be proved genuine. I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. I think it's an important idea. I tend to have a strong, I will call it an addiction. We tend to have a strong addiction to that which we perceive will provide us with immediate pleasure. And yet when I look back over my 52 years, it was some of the most difficult experiences which provided some of the most valuable growth. In fact, I'm not so sure I could have learned what I learned another way. I suppose it can be argued that if I could have learned what I learned another way, I would have learned what I learned another way. Nonetheless, it wasn't always that which provided immediate pleasure that provided valuable growth. Quite the opposite in many cases. So I think it's an important idea, whether from Edison or James or Peter or Paul, I think it's the same idea. Could it be that even the experience which fails to provide immediate pleasure has spiritual value? Could it be that the experience that self so addicted to all which it perceives would bring immediate pleasure? Is it possible that the experience which that self would so quickly label as bad or as failure and resist have gifts for soul growth, development, and unfoldment? And if the experience which that self would so quickly label as bad or as failure and resist, if that experience has gifts for soul growth, development, and unfoldment, what would happen if we simply lowered our guards a bit. I mean, Edison failed. He didn't fail twice. He failed over 6,000 times. What might we learn from this man for whom these so-called failures weren't so quickly labeled as bad or failure and resisted, but were seemingly embraced as beneficial to a greater process? What might we learn from him? Another burned filament? Well, I guess it's time to learn and grow some more. Another bad haircut? Well, I guess it's time to learn and grow some more. You fill in the blank. Another closed door, another failed business, another lackluster relationship. Well, I guess it's time to learn and grow some more. To this point, I've been having a new experience of the last few months. Would you like to hear what it is? That's a horrible question, isn't it? It happened in the same fashion that my vegetarianism happened. I mean, there was no moment of decision. There was not a moment of choice. The only way I can really describe it is as something of an evolution in consciousness, something that involved something that evolved within me or through me without so much intellectual involvement by me. It was natural. It seemed effortless. I didn't pencil vegetarianism on my calendar. I didn't choose it as a New Year's resolution. And in fact, so organic was this change that when people ask me, when did you become vegetarian, I don't know. I don't know. It was a while ago. It's difficult to answer. Nonetheless, I've been having a new experience of recent months, and it plays out something like this. I find it a struggle to say, oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. Even though it's a response which is considered widely appropriate to any number of situations, it's a response that's considered absolutely mandatory in response to certain announcements, and yet it catches in my throat. And that's not to say that there's a lack of compassion. That's not it. I can be compassionate. I can say I will be here for you and mean it deeply. I can say I acknowledge this painful time and mean it deeply. I can say I will support you in revealing whatever meaning might be revealed through this and mean it deeply. But only rarely can I say, oh, that's too bad. I guess I would describe the inner terrain this way. Over my 52 years, I've come to entertain the possibility that even difficult experiences have spiritual value. Even difficult experiences have spiritual value, and to say, oh, that's too bad, is tantamount to presuming that they don't. To say, oh, that's too bad, it's tantamount to turning my back in resistance instead of opening my arms to the soul growth, development, and unfoldment which we know to be at hand. I have to wonder if the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, spoke to such an orientation when he said, perhaps you hate a thing and it's good for you, perhaps you love a thing and it's bad for you. Allah knows. Confucius, when he said everything has beauty, but not everyone can see it. Or Lao Tzu, when he said, on the other side of resistance is the flow. I have to believe that some iteration of this is the recognition behind today's affirmation, God causes all things to work for good. Rarely can I say, oh, that's too bad, because there's something within me that believes, as I presume Edison and James and Paul and Peter believe, that no experience is limited to what it appears to be upon first glance. Or I might go so far as to assert that hidden, even in the darkest corners of the human experience, are treasures for the human soul. So in closing, I like to imagine us as a society sitting in that laboratory this morning, singing songs and drinking beer, listening to the pipe organ. We might feel discouraged by a condition. We might feel drained by a circumstance I wouldn't know. And yet there we are, like Thomas Alva Edison, trying really hard to advance the idea of light on the planet. And I like to imagine us as a society with every seeming failure, whether it be 10 or 100 or 500, 1,000, Edison's 6,000 or more, simply responding with some iteration of, well, I guess it's time to learn and grow some more. So in light of this idea, in light of this possibility that hidden even in the darkest corners of a human experience are treasures for the human soul, let's turn from asking questions such as, how can I make this gone? Or why did this happen to me? And let's ask some better questions. And let's do that in a time of reflection, a time of meditation. If you are new to Unity, if you are newer to Unity, it lasts 3 or 4 minutes. You're welcome to simply take a deep breath with us. Make your body comfortable in whatever way suits you. You're welcome to place your feet on the floor, to close your eyes, to uncurl your fingers and toes. You can feel your heart calm, the breath slow, the eyes relax. Instead of turning our backs in resistance. Let us enter into a time of creative dancing with the it of our mind's eye, not with the old questions, not with how do I make this gone, why did this happen to me, but with new questions. And so to that highest part of myself, to that realm of wisdom which stands behind, in and through all of its creation, into that space, instead we ask, how can I make this, whatever this is, how can I make this valuable? And we listen. Instead of holding up our hands in resistance, instead of turning our backs, we ask, how can I make this, whatever this is, how do I make this worthwhile? And we listen. Let's ask the courageous question, how might this, whatever this is for you, how might this grow me? That's a good question. I imagine all of us sitting around that laboratory. And like Edison himself, let us ask the final question: how might I use this to further the idea of light on the planet? Whatever this is, how might I use this to further the idea of light on the planet? Understanding and accepting, and at least willing to consider that all things work through God, through us. And it's from this that I draw my peace. It's from this that I draw my peace. It is from this that I draw my peace.
Thanks again for joining us. Please visit unityinlinwood.org for a preview of all upcoming classes, services, and events, and for an opportunity to make a gift to our community should you so choose. Thank you.